Welcome, everybody. Thank you to all who are here participating in our fiber town hall. We're all joining from the safety of our homes, which is actually quite convenient for something like this, and hope everybody's doing well and staying safe. I'm Michelle Barber with Kaysville City Council, and I want to welcome you all to coming. We are going to be talking about our new Kaysville Fiber project that we're proposing to be put on the ballot for this November 2020. With me tonight, we also have Council Member Andre Lortz, and everybody else you see in these little squares. This is a newly formed citizens panel that we put together to get more communication and interaction from our citizens on this project. And so we're gonna kind of let them present this plan to everyone. So thank you all for coming. This plan is the product of a lot of citizen engagement and feedback over the past year plus. And to sum it up, we really have 3 key points that we heard from residents and that we built our project around. The first one being that we get to vote on it. Like I just said, the vote will be in November 2020 for the project in its entirety. Number 2 is that I only pay if I want. So those who subscribe pay, those who do not pay. And the third one, I will know what it costs. And we're going to talk in depth a little bit about how this project has come around and what you guys can expect and how to keep being involved. Councilmember Lortz, anything else?
I'll bring some stuff.
Okay. Oh, good. Even better. And also there is the question and answer process for those of you who are watching in the webinar. You can submit questions. We'll try to make sure we get to as many as we can tonight, and then we'll make sure to follow up with those that we may not have been able to get to. So with that, we're going to have Brad start us off and introduce himself and part of the project.
All right, thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear me fine out there. My name is Brad Winter. I'm a resident of Kaysville. I've lived here almost 4 years. I work for Intermountain Healthcare in the area, and I've lived in a number of cities, both in and outside of Utah. And I think that my experience with broadband internet is probably not too different from most others out there. Honestly, everywhere I've lived, I've usually only had 1, maybe 2 options for broadband internet in my house. And I have to admit, since living in Kaysville, I've probably had the least amount of options, probably paid the most, and had the slowest internet of anywhere else that I've lived. And so over the last couple of years, as the idea of a fiber optic network that would be brought to every household in Kaysville, the idea came up, I got really excited. And that's what sparked my interest in this project. Now, my job today is to speak a little bit to why. Why would we take on this project? What's the need and what's the benefit here? And honestly, I think that we live in a time when connectivity and broadband internet is no longer a luxury, but it's becoming much more of a necessity. I have to be honest, if I had to choose from different services in my household, I think broadband internet would be at the top of my list of needs. Now, I don't consider myself or my family to be really high-end users. We're not programmers or something like that. But I will say that reliable connectivity is essential to my work, my children's education. It's becoming integrated into our religion, our family connections, our entertainment, and everything in our household. And I think that many have the thought in their minds, well, this recent pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, is this a good time to do this? And I would argue that this has emphasized or highlighted the need more than any other time why we would want as a city to come together and demand better, more reliable services. I personally work in healthcare. I work in an outpatient clinic setting. And for a long time, I think healthcare has been a little hesitant to jump onto the technology bandwagon. But because of this pandemic, I think many have experienced that physicians and others are now doing house calls through the internet instead of bringing you into the clinic. And this has created a need for people's health even that they need that reliable connectivity so they can connect and interact with their healthcare provider. And to be honest, as this pandemic comes and goes, I think that the cat's out of the bag. I think healthcare is going to be one of those services now that is going to be integrated and delivered in a remote fashion more and more. And it's just going to grow, and the need's going to become bigger and bigger. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for Kaysville to be ahead of the curve, or less behind the curve, honestly, in this area. Beyond my work, I have to tell you that, this pandemic has highlighted the need for education, for entertainment, to maintain connections with other people. I'm really excited by the opportunities that we're going to talk about here in this group, but I just want to emphasize that while I've heard some people comment on, well, why is this needed, or isn't this just a luxury? I think that recent experience has shown most every household out there that this is one of those services that is becoming a part and will become more of a part of our lives, and we can't choose not to connect, at least in my experience. And as we're going to hear over and over and over, the current Kaysville plan, which I really appreciate, they listened to the citizens as they re-engineered how this is going to be delivered, is that the plan is if voters vote yes and accept this plan, every household will be offered the choice. Will you want to sign into this fiber optic network, pay for the service that is provided, or not? And so just to emphasize, a vote yes is not necessarily saying, yes, I want fiber. A vote yes allows the city to offer that to every household, and then everyone can make their own choice from there on. I think that's my part.
Okay, I guess I'm up next. Hi, I'm Nate Zog. I've lived here in Kaysville for like 13 years now. I love it here. In fact, I love it here so much that when we had to move a little while ago, we just moved down the street. So I started a business here. So I started a technology company called Mindfire Technology, and we're so thrilled to be able to start it in Kaysville. For me, internet is really essential to the quality of our life. But one of the questions I think a lot of people have is, well, let's say we invest in this fiber. What happens if it becomes obsolete in just a few years? There's all kinds of cool things out on the horizon. So I answered this question a few times in the first round of this. And so I think it's great to have an opportunity to kind of answer it now. The biggest thing people think of when they think of, well, there's something out on the horizon that might make this all obsolete, is 5G. So the thing about 5G is, the first thing to understand is there's kind of two 5Gs. There is a fast mode 5G, and then there's a more larger range, more normal mid-band 5G. The fast 5G is really fast. It's super fast. It can really impress. But the problem with that is it's limited to only a couple of city blocks, maybe 3 at the most. Additionally, it is not able to penetrate any kind of walls or windows or anything like that. So if you wanted that fast speed, you'll either have to be in a building with it, or you'll have to be outside or something like that. The other problem is that the very fastest stuff is only being planned to be deployed in urban environments. So think downtown Salt Lake City, that kind of place. It's probably not something that would be available to residents of Kaysville. The mid-band stuff is just a little bit faster than the 4G LTE we have these days. And if you think about it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't use my phone as my main internet connection. I would run out of gigabytes real quick that way. It's kind of slow and it's kind of expensive. So another thing to consider, it's affected by weather, and it's kind of a shared connection. The other one people kind of think of as kind of cool is the Starlink satellites. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those, but the interesting thing is we've had satellite internet for a long time. The biggest downside to that is its latency, because it has to orbit at such high orbits, 22,000 miles away. Just to get a signal there and back takes about 250 milliseconds, or a quarter of a second. That means that kind of satellite internet is completely unusable for things like telecommunications. We wouldn't be able to have this call, for example, on satellite internet. The next thing to understand, Starlink is trying to get around some of those limitations, but it's really not anything that could be subscribed to yet. There's really we have no idea what they're going to do with it. It's a big unknown, but I can also tell you pretty conclusively, it's not as good as fiber. It's still affected by weather. It's still a shared connection. So it's not that cool. Other people think, well, I'm perfectly happy with what I have in Comcast or Quest or whatever my provider is. And that's great. The thing about those providers is that they don't hit everybody. Some people have a choice of between the two of them. Some people have good choices between the two. Some people have, I can get really slow internet here or better internet here, or some people have to make other choices. But it's probably not going to be something where you're going to get fiber, and it's probably going to be a lot more expensive than what I think the city has proposed. So let me just spend just a couple of seconds talking about fiber itself. So fiber is really cool. First, it's very, very fast, as you probably already know. Second, it's very low latency. It is much faster to get the data back and forth. Next is synchronous data rates. So typically we have a much faster download than upload, but in a lot of workflows, an upload connection can make a big difference to your connection. It's highly reliable. Light travels a lot further than electricity without attenuation or interference. So it's not affected by other signals from power lines or other signals from just radio waves. It's not affected as much by weather at all. And it's never shared. We don't have to share this with everyone else. So fiber is just super cool in that way. It has a lot higher lifespan than copper. The deployments we're looking at in the city are mostly buried, and buried fiber has lifespan of at least 40 to 100 plus years. We don't even know the lifespan because the original fiber we laid down is still in service for the providers. Aerial, it's a little bit shorter, between 20 and 25 years, but it's still pretty durable there. Also, because it's light in a piece of glass, it doesn't corrode. So we don't have problems with the wires getting exposed and corroding. So just in closing, I think there's a reason that schools and hospitals and businesses choose fiber. I think it has a lot of potential to really increase our city and make it a lot better place, allow for things that we could never do before, especially as telecommuting, teleworking has become a way of life. It's really great to have this kind of as an option for people. And for me personally, I think it's cool. A city-owned fiber project is better than secondary water, green waste bins, and bike lanes combined. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ron Partridge. I'm a 20-year resident here in Kaysville, living just west of Flint Street. Based upon my entire career being in technology and cybersecurity, I was extremely interested when I heard that Kaysville was thinking about fiber. But when I volunteered for this panel, I was skeptical. I had a number of questions, and I'm happy to say that they've all been addressed to my satisfaction. Tonight, I wanted to focus a bit on the business side of the discussion. How do I feel this approach will get me my desired results for stable, high-speed connectivity at a cost that my family and our fellow Kaysville citizens want? I was interested when I saw that the city put out a survey, and a large number of people responded to the survey. Out of about 9,000 homes, they got a response from about 56%, which is amazing. And 32% of the city indicated that they were interested in wanting fiber, and 2/3 of it indicated that they wanted it as soon as possible. About 25% of the homes indicated they had a desire to opt out. At this time, they were satisfied with the internet service that they already had. Of course, one of the things that's nice about this plan is that any of the respondents can still change their mind. Based upon the response of the proposal that was submitted to the city to build out this project, they put together some estimates. The conservative estimate that the city is indicating that they believe somewhere between 50 and 58% of all the homes will end up going with the fiber option. Personally, I think once the citizens see how much they can save and at the same time improve their service, many more than the 58% will select the Kaysville fiber. For me personally, it has nothing to do with being a replacement cost for what I already have and not an incremental cost. In other words, I'm not going to be creating new expense. I'm going to replace the internet providing that I already have. Currently, I'm on Comcast, and I'm paying a little over $225 a month for internet and entertainment packages such as TV and sports packages. So far, the indications are that the cost that's being proposed will be somewhere for each household, somewhere between $49.95 and $69.95, depending on the speed that you select. Because I'm kind of a geek and I always want the highest possible internet speeds with the higher cost, so I'm assuming that the internet's going to cost me just under $70. And I expect to, in all honesty, to spend probably another $75 for streaming services to provide me with the entertainment that I want, such as Hulu, CBS All Access, Disney Plus, etc. So I expect that I will get much better internet performance, and I'm going to save over $75 a month. It's a real win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. When I answered the survey, I indicated I was interested, but I was not sure the timing. I now want it as soon as possible. I like that the city's listened to the citizens and have changed some of their ideas based upon the feedback. I look forward to the election in November to vote on the project. I like the fact that the citizens will get to choose. Thank you for spending time with us tonight and hearing our opinions. And we're very interested in hearing what your questions are and seeing if we can give you adequate response. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Denny Fifield. I have been a citizen of Kaysville for 18 years now, and being in part of a newer subdivision, we were very limited on our internet options when we first came in, and still kind of are, although that has expanded a bit. I was interested in this. I am an IT person by trade, so fiber and anything shiny gets my attention. So I wanted to be part of this this conversation to offer up some of the things that I have dealt with in my business in installing fiber and that at the places of business that I've worked at. The questions that I'm going to be answering tonight is, why is this model different than the previous, and why did we choose this model? That's going to be answered in basically 2 points, and then I'm going to answer a sub-question after that. But the first point is, this is an open network, and the second point is it will be city-owned. Now, talking more about this is an open network, that means that we will have internet service providers bidding for your home and providing internet service to your home. This will provide competition. It will drive the prices down. And there will be multiple ISPs, internet service providers, available to you. In some parts of Kaysville, there is one option that you have, maybe two, and you are stuck with the speeds they give you. That leads me to point number 2, which is, this was city-owned versus private. And city-owned means this is going to be available to all citizens of Kaysville, regardless of where they're at. With privately owned internet service providers, which we currently have, there are some places that you will not get Comcast. There'll be some places that you can't get other ISPs. And so you are limited. And if this was a privately owned model, we would still have those limitations thrust upon us. So I was very excited to hear that the city had selected this model, because it will provide competition. And every single citizen will have, or every single household will have the option to have fiber brought to their home. The sub question that we have is what products will be available to me? And as Ron kind of mentioned there, you can have all of these entertainment packages of Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney, all of these other options available to you in your home with these speeds, and they are going to be a better quality service. During this pandemic, I have increased my internet speed just to deal with as much home working that I'm doing and everybody else in the household. But I found that being on a shared network that we are, I know when everybody's on the internet because my internet speeds just tank. And with fiber, that's not going to happen. You will have dedicated speeds that you are buying. Like right now, my speeds are, in theory, 1 gig down and 35 megs upload. And I have never come close to getting those. And that's just part of the package that these internet service providing companies want us to buy in on. With fiber, you buy a gig down, gig up speed, you get a gig down and a gig up speed. That's the beauty of having fiber to your home. So I am for this. I love the fact that the citizens get to choose whether they want it at their home or not. You can still, if you want Comcast, you can have Comcast. If you want CenturyLink, you can have CenturyLink. But the vote in November is to give families, if you vote yes, that gives the families the opportunity to say, I want fiber at my home rather than something else. So that's what I would encourage people to do, is vote yes for this in November so that families can have the choice to have fiber in their homes. Thank you.
Gotta take it off on mute. Hello, my name is Paul Waldrop. I've been a Kaysville resident for 12 years. I just retired after 38 years as a construction code practices and quality expert. And so I was interested on being on this panel to just maybe help in some way if we decided to do it, or make sure that we have the kind of quality that we need to have a good product. Now, originally I was opposed to the 2019 fiber plan. I felt that such a large bond and project should be voted on and approved by the people, and the idea that it was not going to be didn't set well with me. Additionally, I felt there was a conflict of interest in the management plan for the fiber optics and the utility and the operation. And then I want to say that after reviewing this new Kaysville fiber optic plan, I'm very comfortable with the plan, and I plan to vote for approval. I am impressed with the differences and changes between what we've done between 2019, which I felt was rotten plan, to this new plan. Today, I will be addressing the questions of how we are going to manage the project and ensure quality. The first thing we did, and most of this has been completed, is we created a specification that stated what the requirements and the needs and the expectations of the plan was. And then that specification was sent out for what we call request for proposal, where we allow all qualified bidders to submit a bid. Once that happened, we then scored and evaluated each of those bidders based upon things like price, past performance, and several, those issues that determine whether they can do the project in a quality manner. So that information is now on the new Kaysville Fiber website. plan website, and it can go in all of the scoring and all of the specifications, and the bids can be reviewed at anybody's desire. And so what I want to close in saying is that one of the positives about Kaysville having our plan, this new plan, is that we own a utility already. So we already have easements and the rights to do certain things. And of course, all we have to do is follow that plan. And lastly, one of the advantages of this plan is initially we're going to have a third party oversee the operation and maintenance of the new fiber optics. And by having someone do that, that gives the city time to become experienced in overseeing and managing such a utility. And it'll give us an opportunity to make sure we can choose the individuals we want to manage the project on a permanent basis. So I am very much in favor of this new proposed. Each citizen gets to choose, and we get to take our vote and do our citizen duty. And with that, thank you for your time. And I'll turn it over to Laura.
Yeah, it's my turn.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
You bet.
I am Laura Hathaway. I work remotely from home for the VA healthcare system. I would actually love to have fiber at a more reasonable cost right now. I live in an older community, and the older generation should not have to flip a bill for something they would not have the desire or the need when there are cheaper alternatives. I chose to opt out to support all citizens in last year's survey. Each citizen should have the right to choose for fiber for their own needs. I have since reconsidered based on all the information that I have been given. And in this new revised plan, if you don't want it, you don't have to pay for it. If you want it, you pay a subscription rate. If you don't want it, after a period of time, like with Comcast, you can cancel at any time and you don't have to pay anything further. So I chose that I'm going to vote yes in order to give all citizens a right to have fiber or not to have fiber. I do want to say only those who subscribe to the service will pay for it. There is no upfront payment required, no liens on your property, no commitments, and you can cancel at any time. The city as a whole does guarantee the bond will be paid. The cost of subscribers will be adjusted as needed to pay off the bond, with the goal to pay it off early. I choose yes to give the citizens the option to fiber. Carrie?
Hi, my name is Carrie Thompson, and I have lived in Kaysville for almost 27 years. So I'm kind of the old timer of the group. I have a unique situation in my family where my husband and I have one provider upstairs, and my son-in-law and daughter have a different provider downstairs. So we represent both Comcast and CenturyLink. My son-in-law is actually a software engineer, and so they have greater needs than we do. And we've been having internet issues, so I apologize if things are not super clear tonight. As a matter of fact, can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm participating in the panel because I believe it doesn't matter what my personal opinions are about internet. I believe that I wanted everybody to be represented. I wanted the people that are for and against this project to be represented. I felt so strongly about the opportunity to choose. That's my strong point. So as citizens of Kaysville, we will have the opportunity to choose three different things. Three different things. So the first thing we get to choose is in November. We get to choose whether we want to have fiber in our city. If we choose and vote no, though nobody will get the opportunity to choose. We are choosing to take away the right to choose from everyone. If we vote yes, citizens who are interested in having fiber will be able to, but those who don't want fiber and don't want to pay for it won't have to. The second opportunity we'll have to choose is to choose, actually, if the vote goes through and we are allowed to have fiber, we get to choose whether we want to participate or not, and for how long we want to participate. If we find out that fiber is not for us, we can choose to opt out and go back to what we had before. However, there have been studies done with Utopia and other fiber networks that have shown that doesn't really happen, because if you have a choice between driving a Cadillac in your driveway or driving a Chevy, you're going to choose the Cadillac just because it's safer, it's faster, it's cooler. Anyways, that's the response on that question. The third thing we'll get to choose is our internet service provider. There's going to be several opportunities to choose from. So if one doesn't work for you, the packages are more expensive, you can choose a different one, and you're not committed. There's no contract with any of those service providers. So you'll be able to choose or switch at any time. So before I turn it over to Michelle, I just wanted to thank everyone who chose to participate tonight for being responsible, for choosing to inform themselves. There's going to be a lot more information that comes available as we choose our contractor, as we make those choices. And I would encourage everyone to keep informed and consider the price and what we're willing to pay to grant everyone the opportunity to choose. I turn it back over to Michelle. Thanks.
Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks to all of our panelists for, number one, indicating months ago that they were willing to be part of this process, and then staying engaged and being willing to come share some of their knowledge that they've gained throughout their perspectives. I think that's important to see, that we have a lot of different demographics represented, different perspectives. Really quick, one question that we've had come through is, how can we educate the rest of the city about what's being proposed? That's such a good question, because obviously we're 33 minutes in, and that was a lot to consume. And obviously this is a very small percentage of our city who are in attendance tonight. And so some of the things we're doing is we're going to continue to offer these information sessions. We have updated all of the information that we have, and we're going to continue to update on newkaysvillefiber.com. We have things going out in the city newsletter. We'll contact as much as we can and continue to share information, but ultimately we're really relying on residents and neighbors to help inform each other. We know how well connected we all are through our neighborhoods. When other city items come up, or even something more locally that we want to talk about, we encourage you to get out, to have people start getting involved early. One of the things you'll find on our newkaysvillefiber.com webpage is a timeline, and that's been up there all year. It's showing everything that you can plan on from now until the vote in November. So you know exactly what process this project is going to follow. We want to make sure no one is surprised. We've learned that it takes quite a while to get information out and give enough time to understand, and also for us to receive that feedback. So that's probably going to be your very best way. And then we're also going to have Nate at the very end talk about another way that we are going to be communicating and answering questions. So, and we're also open to ideas of better ways to get the information out. If you have great ideas, if you're wanting to have some people come talk to a very small group, reach out to us. Our email is fiber@kaysvillecity.com, and we'll get in touch. Nate, can I turn it over to you for just a little bit, and then we'll go back to Andre?
Sure. Yeah, so with all this, I have set up a website. It's called kaysvillefiberfaq.com. And the hope is
Is it new Kaysville Fiber
it's
FAQ?
both. You could do either one.
Oh, even better. Thanks.
Yeah, so the hope is that there was a lot of misinformation going around last time. The hope is people, if they have a question, we can go there, they can ask it. There can be discussions as well. So us as panelists are all have an account there right now, and we'll try and do our best to answer the questions. Currently, most of the questions that are on there are from us panelists. So hopefully some of you guys can get on there and help A, spread the word, and B, ask some of these great questions that you have for us tonight. Ask them over there, and that way we can give, you know, a more measured response, or maybe a more thorough answer, or maybe just a couple people need different perspectives on that question. So that's just a way for us to kind of help communicate what's going on. Also, there's some links on there to the Kaysville Fiber and also the Connect Kaysville group on Facebook.
Great, thanks, Nate. So just a couple things that I wanted to kind of follow up and let everybody know kind of timelines and what we've been doing and where we're going from here. So last November is when we basically pulled the plug on the old Kaysville Fiber program and put that away and started this new Kaysville Fiber plan. We have been very deliberate in our approach to trying to do this. We have been for months planning dates and times of when to do which steps and how to prioritize them, try to get the answers to all the questions that we had been given last year by residents, and tried to address the concerns that were raised about the old plan. So last week in City Council meeting, we had presentations from the top 2 bidders for our RFP. And so they presented kind of who they were and what they were proposing in trying to let the residents of Kaysville get familiar with who were the proposers. So we had 2 groups. One was AEG, which is Atlantic Engineering Group out of Georgia, that has done probably 80 or 100 fiber projects throughout the country. The other was a group of Corning, who makes fiber, who engineers fiber networks and works through installation of fiber networks, as well as Connect, who is an ISP in Utah and would like to become more of an operator than just an ISP. They also had a third partner who is Graybar, which does product supplying for fiber networks throughout the country and the world. So we had some very good qualified people that had proposed. This next week in City Council meeting, we will be discussing the top 2 bidders and having a kind of a discussion with the City Council about the proposals. And then the following City Council meeting, we plan to basically give direction on how to move forward with those bids so that staff can continue forward. In July, we are anticipating that we will have the discussion on the actual ballot proposition that will be put out to vote and the language that will be included on that. And we've worked over the last probably 5 or 6 months to try to make it as simple and understandable for everybody as possible. We've tried to make sure that it's all encompassing, so there's no little outs, that it's only a vote on the bond, which is a revenue bond, not a general obligation bond. And people have pointed out that, well, you don't need our vote for a revenue bond, and so you could turn around and issue it anyways, but it is a vote on the whole project, including the financing mechanism. So if the citizens say no, we will not proceed with the project. If the citizens say yes, then we will proceed to bond, sign the contracts, and engage in the project. So there'll be a lot more details that'll come out here in the next few weeks in the month of June as we have the discussions at City Council level and as we kind of define and come to some numbers that we can share with everybody. Not all details are settled yet. Obviously, we're going to have to negotiate some things both with the bidders as we contract with them, as well as with ISPs. Because until we actually have an operator, it's kind of hard for us to contract with ISPs. But we have had many ISPs in Utah that have reached out and expressed interest to participate in Kaysville Fiber. So we know that they are very interested in the project. One of the things I wanted to clarify in some of the questions going around was about what happens if the revenue generated by the fiber network does not support the bond. We will publish out kind of our scenarios, how many subscribers to break even, how many subscribers we think we are expecting to have on the system based on the survey that we did last October, and then what a best case scenario looks like. And basically what we're going to show is that we have a break-even level at somewhere around 35% participation within the city, which is lower than the survey results that we had last October. At 50%, the bond will be paid off in about 22 years. And if we were able to get to a 70% participation, which some municipals have gotten to, just go down to Spanish Fork if you want to see an example, that would pay off the bond in 15 years. And once the bond is paid off, then we will reduce the rates for subscribers. We basically try to de-risk it as quickly as we can and then reduce the prices for people. So we'll have a lot more details that'll come out about those things. But if we don't have enough revenue from the fiber, the first option is raise the price. Right now, the prices are being proposed are lower than Utopia in Layton. So it's got some value in there. And if we had to raise it a few dollars, that could help make the break-even point even lower. But if we don't have to do that, we'd prefer not to do that. And one of the things that we're trying to do to help give us time to build the network and the subscriber base is that we will make sure that the bond has no payments due for 2 years, so that we can basically have about 3 years to build up subscribers before we have the first bond payment due. And that gives us time so we're not under the gun from day one. And so we can kind of see how things go before we have to make any hard decisions. But if we had to subsidize it from the city, it would be done with the franchise, excise, and sales taxes, which are not direct levies on the residents of Kaysville. In fact, Kaysville gets 60% of its sales tax revenue based upon population, not by purchases made within Kaysville. So we can say very definitively it's not going to be a direct assessment across the residents of Kaysville if there is a subsidy needed. It is not going to be based on property taxes. It is not a general obligation bond. So therefore, it is not a direct assessment to any household if there was a subsidy needed. So we're trying to really look at every way we can to minimize the risk. The survey gave us a lot of good information, better information than most cities that have gone and done a project like this have ever started with. So we're in a really good position right now, and we're very excited about where things are landing and how things are coming together. And we hope that you'll join us next week for the City Council meeting to hear more details about the proposals and how the project moves forward. Michelle?
Awesome, thanks for that. One of the things I wanted to make really clear, and will continue to, which is why I'm really glad we're involving this communication very early, is we want to make it really clear that because we have such better information now, we're able to submit a much better project that allows people to come in at any time. You don't have to pay a bigger fee. There's no upfront cost required. There's no liens on your house like you may have heard from other cities or other plans. And we want to make sure, I just got a call last week, someone saying, I opted out last year, but believe me, I want to opt in. And I was happy to tell him that plan has been put aside. Everyone will have their chance to subscribe if they want, not subscribe if they don't want, if this vote passes in November. One of the other questions that came through the chat was if it's not a general obligation bond, why are we even voting on it? That's a good question, because this type of revenue bond is not required to be voted on, but we made a commitment to listen to the residents last year, the end of 2019, and to put the entire project to a vote from the citizens. And believe it, we're hearing so much interest in it that we want to keep information coming at a steady pace that people can feel informed and ready to make that decision in November.
Michelle,
any other comments? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If I could just give some heads up. So we will have at least one, if not two, bond hearings during the summer here. Right now, it looks like we may have one at the beginning of July and one in September. And then we will have a ballot public hearing in October, where we'll actually talk about it, and we'll invite those who are opposed to the project to have equal time to discuss why they're opposed to the project versus those that are for the project. So we're going to have plenty of opportunity for people to be engaged and involved between now and November.
Excellent. And like I said, it's really taken so much planning to get the entire year laid out so people can have time to be involved and understand. One of the reasons I wanted to do things like this early is I didn't want anyone to see, bond public hearing and not understand why we're doing that before the actual vote. It's because we need to have that third component I talked about, knowing how much it costs. That's where it comes from. Anyway, thank you all for your questions. Is there any other panelists who want to say anything in summary? Anybody else? I really encourage everybody to go out there. Oh, go ahead, Nate.
Sorry, I just want to say I've been really impressed. I am witnessing kind of just how this process has unfolded. I had a lot of distrust with the city council and the mayor in years past, and I feel like they legitimately listened and want to find a win-win for everybody. I've been very impressed with how this has happened, and I have to hand it to Councilman Barber and Councilman Lortz for just doing an excellent job listening. I've always been in favor, and I'm sure you probably got that from my vibe, but not everybody on this panel was. I remember on day one, there's a lot of people who walked into the room with this kind of, I'm going to show them, this is not going to happen type attitude. And I loved it as they listened politely to all their concerns and then just answered the questions. And this is how government really works. So I was just very impressed. And I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. We did not pay him to say that, by the way. Anyway, we appreciate that. Everyone who is on the call tonight, thank you. This is going to be published. We're publishing all these videos that we do. Everything will be on the website. So if you want to go back and look at it, if you want your friends to come look at it, it will be on that Get Involved page of the website where it tells you all of the opportunities. We'll have the video right there so everyone can come see it. And then we're going to be adding more things as they come. So thank you for taking some time out of your weekday evening, and we really hope everyone can stay safe during this time and that we can do this great project for our city.
Night,
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thanks.